So 76 years ago today, April 14th, it's a very special day. It's a day that John Seagraves and Hansel Simpson did a very special thing that helped to save the North Carolina, save the U.S.S. North Carolina that's right behind me. You know, today's April 14th, 2021. So April 14th, 1945, 80 years before to that day, President Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated. It had been an awfully rough time in this country, and it was a rough time in this country from the beginning. But, it'd been an awful lot, and April 14th had been a day that, not a really bad thing had happened prior to April 14th, 1945. Just starting out in this country, we had the Founding Fathers, famous Founding Fathers. We had, obviously, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton. Some people don't like him too much. He's controversial. But Andrew Jackson, even though he wasn't necessarily a founding father, did some great things for this country. Some other people that are less well known, Crispus Attucks, Gabriel Prosser, Austin Dabney, James Fortin, Nonyehi, Melly Melly, Chief Seattle, Geronimo. A lot of those people, they kind of made it. It was an ugly melting pot, the United States was, up until 1865 and, 1886 in that period when Geronimo surrendered, So it's April 14th. It's 1945. Here we are, things have boiled to a head. We're involved in the Second World War now. What's going on is on the starboard side of that ship, on the other side of that ship, John Seagraves is sitting at one of those 20 millimeter guns, and his crewmate, Hansel Simpson, sees a Japanese ship, he sees a Japanese plane, and he points it out and he sees it and he says, "Jap Betty, start firing." And Seagraves shoots the ship. He sees the plane, and it's coming right for the ship. And they're lucky if they're only going to lose hundreds of men, if it hits the ship. But Seagraves aimed for the propeller, and that plane landed 30 feet from the ship. And because of that, that ship still stands here today. That's a Munga Valiant Axe, and that happened 76 years ago today. That happened, And I'll tell you, a big part of the reason why that happened, John Seagraves and Hansel Simpson were both black sailors on that ship. We're on that ship right here. Traditionally, they didn't get roles to shoot down, to shoot the 20 millimeter guns, but they got it. And they got that role. And the reason they got that role was because Commander Joe Stryker, skin color didn't matter to him. Navy protocol mattered to him. And if you were a good sailor, you got what you deserved. John Seagraves and Hansel Simpson were great sailors, and they got what they deserved. That started, and that was a mindset that people started to acquire more during World War II. There's a saying now today, same mud, same blood. That was true. That was true with some of the Marines prior to that. And on this ship, in that moment, that was really strengthened even after Roosevelt Flanard's time on the ship. Now, 76 years later to the day, we've got to ask ourselves a question: what direction are we going to move in? If you're a religious person, we talk about race relations and how it all relates. A lot of people like to say, well, we're all children of God, and as someone who, believes in God, I would definitely say that, but it's not necessarily going to get across, to someone who doesn't believe. And if you don't believe, I respect you, that's fine. So if you don't believe and you don't want to say, well, we're all children of God, this is what I would say, and I believe this too. Same birth, same earth. Somehow or another, we all come from human beings, and we see that same earth, and we know that, through DNA and science, and we see that stuff, we see from satellites, from space, we can see where we are. We're all on this same earth together. We're here. Whether we like it or not, we're here. We have a chance to move forward. We have a chance to make some progress, make some advances, however you want to think about it and however you want to word it. you know. So here we are, you know. And what I'm doing right now is I'm taking those lessons that Commander Joe Stryker, you know, and John Seagraves and Hansel Simpson all took. I had the pleasure of speaking on the phone to Mr. Seagraves, you know, just today. Earlier today, while I was on the ship, we spoke on the phone and we talked about how it was 76 years ago, when he was just short of his 19th birthday, that all that went down. So let's celebrate that day. Let's celebrate April 14th. Let's remember President Lincoln, but let's also remember Joe Stryker, John Seagraves, and Hansel Simpson. You know, let's remember all those people and the Marine attachment that helped them fire that down too, the whole team. Let's take a time to remember the team and the individuals that did everything. You know, which direction are you going to move in? I'm going to go with Seagraves, Simpson, and Stryker. You know, those three S's sound pretty good to me right there. So April 14th, 2021, Andrew Wissick coming at you from the Battleship, North Carolina. Signing off.